Hello YouTubers and fellow hams. Well, a friend of mine, Rick, K89HUM, found this old bug in a collection of stuff from his dad's ham radio days. This is made by the Telegraph Aparatus Co of Chicago, Illinois. This is an antique. Telegraph Apparatus Co. Existed from 1943 through 1946. It was a partnership that included Ted McElroy, who's a pretty well-known name in bugs, and a few of his friends. This is a model 810, which was the deluxe model with the chrome base, which was manufactured a little bit later, 1944 through 1946. It was a World War II partnership. They made these bugs, I think, for the military. Anyway, what a bug is, it's like a semi-automatic key. Now what you've got here is, you've got the contact for the dit side is on this little spring, and this rod is springy. There's a little piece of thin steel here that makes it springy, and there's a counterweight out here on the end. Now there's a second set of contacts over here for the dashes. So you manually do the dashes, and you have to control the length of them. Contacts are dirty. Dots, however, were semi-automated. When you swing this over, that's fast. What happens is you introduce kinetic energy into this weight, swinging it over, and then it swings back and forth like a pendulum in gravity. You know how a pendulum, when you raise it up and you release it, it'll swing down as gravity pulls it down, and its kinetic energy will pull it past, and then gravity will pull it back down, and it'll swing back and forth, losing a little energy each time. The same principle is at work here. This spring steel acts like gravity, and when you bring this over with enough energy, the weight swings back here like a pendulum, and that automates the dits. So you still have to do the dashes manually. But boy, it's tricky to control. It's really, really fast with this small weight. Now they had larger counterweights available for them that would make them go slower, but this one is. So, dang. Hard to do a series of E's because you got to really time that with the dots. Now the owner had this with the bug, which is a steel ball bearing and a pipe cleaner taped to it. And obviously what he had this for was he had this set up so he could put this on the rod, wrap that pipe cleaner around there, and then wrap this end down around here or something like that to add weight to make it go slower. That's a little more manageable. Yeah, the contacts were a little bit dirty. These are really tricky to adjust. So yeah, sending with a bug, it takes a lot of skill. I think the intent of a bug was to decrease the amount of effort needed to send, since the dots were automated. But yeah, that takes practice. Now there are guys out there that are really skilled with bugs. You can usually tell a bug on the air because the dot to dash ratio will change. Since they have to manually do the dashes, they have to time that so that it's right with the ratio for the dots. Yeah, I need to clean the contacts on it. So that was a step towards automation. The iambic keyer came much later. Well, not much later. I think in the 50s they had tube-based iambic keyers where you just had two switches, and then they would automate the string of dots and dashes. And those were a lot easier to work with. So anyway, that is an interesting little piece of history there. Now, I think McElroy was involved with Vibraplex, which made a lot more bugs through the years, and I think they still make them today. And they're still popular with a select group. who enjoy sending with bugs. Personally, I don't know if I could get used to it. It really takes timing, and you've got to swing farther than you do with paddles. With paddles, you can adjust those switches to where you're just barely tapping on the paddles, and that I think is a little more convenient. With this, you really have to swing that, because if you just do it lightly, see, it doesn't really get enough oscillation in that rod. So you have to introduce a little more energy into it when you swing it. This was made in the era where telegraph was still used. You can tell because it's got a shorting bar here. He's got a piece of paper down there, but this would short the contacts and leave it on. And the reason for the shorting bar was in the early telegraph systems, you had wires running from station to station, and in order for one guy to send, that circuit had to be completed. So the guy that was receiving would swing the shorting bar in and short his contacts, and that would complete the circuit down to the other station where the guy could use his key to send. And then when he was ready to receive, he would short his end, and you would open your end, and then you could send. So it's like completing the circuit at one end of the telegraph run. And older keys will have a shorting bar. Modern hams sometimes will use the shorting bar for tuning up. Well, you know, in the 50s and 60s, when most gear was tube type, it was probably convenient to be able to short the contacts, to lock your transmitter and transmit, so you could fiddle with the knobs and tune it, and then take it out and you're ready to send. But you can always tell an older telegraph key by the presence of the shorting bar. As an example, this is my key. This is my antique key here, and it has the shorting bar, which all the telegraph keys had. And then you'd release it and you'd send that way. A note on sending. I, for a long time, used to rest my wrist. I had a pad, and I would rest my wrist, and I would just use my hand to manipulate the key. But there was actually a military training film on the proper method for sending with a straight key.
As in everything where form counts, send slowly but correctly right from the start. Then gradually increase your speed.
And in the film, they talk about the angle of the arm. And what you want to do is you want to grip the key loosely with your fingers. And you're not using your wrist, you're using your elbow, and you're swinging your whole arm up and down to send. And actually that is a lot easier. Your wrist and your fingers are a little loose, and they become kind of a spring to absorb the motion of your arm. And it's less fatiguing that way. It's easier to use your bicep and tricep to swing your arm up and down. And you can send a little faster. Believe me, it really works that way. I've been working on it. And I can send much quicker. And even faster. Oops, let me try that again. But anyway, this is the Telegraph Apparatus Company of Chicago, Model 810 Bug. It had a chrome base. It was probably very nice when it was new. The chrome is peeling off here. It's kind of dirty. I might clean it up. I'm not sure. I was going to play around with it and use it, but you know, it's really just, for me, it's just too fatiguing to have to swing that weight around and be so precise with the dots and the timing. I think it's actually harder to use than just a straight key for me. And if I wanted the automation, I'll go with iambic paddles. And the owner's solution here to adding weight, he probably didn't have the other weights. I'm sure this came with different size weights here for the back. You could probably put a much larger one on and slow it right down. The larger weight back there would slow down that swing quite a bit. So anyway, that is the Telegraph Apparatus Company Bug from the 1940s. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not already a subscriber, click to subscribe. Join us on the Facebook channel for discussion about the videos. And if you'd like to help support this channel, please click to support me on my Patreon page.